All right, so here's the example. Um, you've got two colors going here, and this fine point Sharpie, you can decide if there's a boundary or if you don't see a boundary. Right here, these kind of just blend together. But right here, I do see a boundary. So I'm in college doing stuff like that, and someone's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like justify what you're doing." And so I started thinking about boundaries, which you look right here and you're like, "Oh, well, it's just two different colors with the boundary. There's like blue and gold and whatever. They're just colors." Uh, hey, Mason. Um, and so then I started assigning these colors meaning. So you could say first, well, this looks like a map, right? They're like maps, like that's water and that's land. Oh, well, so you're drawing the boundary between the water and the land. But if you go to the beach, there's tides. There's not like a line in the sand somewhere where the water's not moving, right? So we're artificially making these lines. We're signing them. So like good and evil, right? If you're watching the Star Wars, you're like, oh, well, there's like the Jedi and the bad Sith, right? So you got there's like we're making those stark lines. We're calling something something. We got race, gender, wrong and right. Mr. Beeshers, if he were here and I said Star Wars versus Star Trek, he would have a very strong opinion that Star Trek is the best and Star Wars is the opposite of the best. So you could say that's Star Wars and that's Star Trek. But really, are we like, this is all things that we're just making up in our brains. We're like classifying stuff, which you don't have to think about, but that's what I was thinking about. Okay, so let's get back to the process. Um, you should mix up four different colors here. So I've got like red right here, and you know what? I'll just put, let me back this up. Okay, I'm just going to put red in two of these, so I don't have to wash my brush out a lot. All right. And you want to try to make your colors really rich. So to spend some time, quite a bit of time, like massaging and not using a lot of water, getting more paint in here. So you should be doing this right now if you haven't already. I'll do some green here. There's always already some dried color, so that's going to be an easy fix, type of an easy mix. And I'll do a green over here too. Now, it doesn't matter which colors you're mixing together, just that in the end you have four separate and new colors on the tray. All right, let's go get some violet. I'll add some more violet to this, and add some more violet to one of these reds. And why don't we go with a little bit of black for each one of them? Yeah, why not? It's on the mixie tray. Oh, some of you don't have, if you're using metallics, you might have something over here like gold or silver. Um, but if you have the regular watercolors, there should be brown and black at the end. It doesn't really matter. All right, so I have myself four colors that are different than the ones at the top of the paper or top of the paint set. All right. So you should have, if you haven't already, just make sure two pieces of paper. Each one should have your name or initials and one A on the back. All right, so I'll start with this one. Now we did a, was it wet on wet sort of thing where we did, what was this one? Wet on wet, right here. So I'm going to make some blobs of air, some blobs of water, and it doesn't matter where. Let's see. My water is kind of dirty, so you can see where I'm making these blobs. and you want to fill up about 50% of paper. And I'm really serious about blobs. I'm using a lot of water. Your paper might start to buckle. Don't scrub it with the water. I'm just putting a lot of water on here, like puddles of water. And you want to have the puddles go off the side of the paper. Doesn't matter how many puddles. Just you want to fill out about 50% of the paper. I don't know if you can see right here, but this is a giant, these are huge, messy areas with a lot of water in them. You want a lot of water. I'm even going to add more to that. Puddles of water. All right. Now I'm going to add one of these colors. It doesn't matter. I'm going to make sure my brush is dry though, so I squeeze out all the water, because you want these colors to be really rich. And I'll go for this blackish color. And I'm just going to make kind of lines and let the paint move around. I got the paint going on the table. It doesn't matter. So if it's not moving around as freely as mine is right now, you need to add way more water. These should be all moving around, making interesting designs. And if you can't really see the colors, if they're really light, spend some time adding some more color. Like I'll put a little more black in here. Ooh. And just I want these to be really rich in color. Your sister? No. So the music we're listening to is microtonal, which I don't know, Mr. Rose, if do you know what microtonal music is? So I got this going. I have lots of color. It's really rich in color. Um, it was fun. That was fun. It looked kind of interesting. And if you didn't fill in 50% of the areas, you can just paint in some more like that. It's not a big deal. Okay, microtonal music is the normal scale we have is like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, something like that. Microtonal has like extra extra notes in it. So like Middle Eastern music does it a lot. Once we're done, I'll show you that the band that's playing right now has a guitar that has like 7 extra frets on it. So they can have those other uh, uh, notes that we normally don't have. Okay, so I'm doing the exact same thing that I did last time. I'm just making huge puddles of water. Well, not huge, a lot of water in the puddles. So the second one, so I switched to another piece of paper. That's going to allow the one that I did before to dry just a little bit. So there are areas that are still going to be wet on the other piece of paper because you should have used a ton of water. Yeah, let me just, I'll just show you where and how much paper is, you can kind of see it filled. So you want about 50% filled with water. All right, so I'm going to grab one of the other colors that I mixed up. I'm going to go with this green. And same deal. If this isn't moving around a lot, then you just add more water to your puddles. I mean, if you're home and doing this and you think someone's going to be like, hey, you got water and paint all over my table, you could do this on a plate maybe, I'm not sure. But you just want to move this around, have some puddles. And this should be really, really relaxing. like zero pressure. You just putting paint, putting paint on here and not really caring where it goes. Just that you have about 50% of the paper covered. All right. Now at this point I might be going too fast. Just for the sake of the video, I'll go kind of quick. All right, so I'm going to put this one off to the side and go back to this one. So I have areas like right here. This still has a huge puddle of water. This up here is kind of dry. So you have areas, you should have areas that are just a little damp. You should have areas that are still soaking wet. And you might have some areas that are fully dry. So I'll switch to another color. Let's go with this reddish. I'm going to add a little more red because I want this to look a little different than the color that's already there. Again, you want really rich colors. If you never opened up your paint set to dry, you might have some goopy stuff going, and it's probably going to be a little easier to get really rich colors, but it's also going to be really goopy. Okay, so I'm going to now not actually you have a choice of whether you do wet on wet. Actually, let's do wet on wet. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a little more controlled here. I'm going to have actually you can see it. So I'm going to be doing the same puddle thing. Yeah, no, I don't want that. You want to be adding water. But you don't want the paper or the water to go and touch any of the paint that you already put down. So I want there to be like a layer of white paper that's in between the new stuff, or yeah, the old paint and where I'm putting the new water. So they shouldn't touch. You want to keep them separate. All right. All right. So we have areas that are wet, and we're gonna have areas that are dry. This is the bleed technique that we did on the exercise thing. So I have areas that are wet, and I'm going to have areas that I'm going to sort of do a boundary, like we talked about. So there's going to be areas where the paint doesn't move, and there's going to be areas where the paint goes all over. All right, so go take some of this rich reddish purpley color, and I'm going to just follow along the boundary of the paint, so you can see it's bleeding into the area that I had my paper wet, and where the paper's dry, it's staying put. I can kind of get a nice clean line. So you can leave white area in between the two colors. It's really up to you. It might look better. They're not going to blend as much though. So you can see right there where the paper was wet, where the paint was wet right here, it's starting to blend. So I'm just going through and having this sort of paint touch where the color ends, and switch to a different color. Oh. If I do that right here, there's this puddle right here, so you can see the two are bleeding together. So I'm doing my best to fill in those areas so you don't see white paper in between the two colors. Wow, there they just really went together. So the reason we put our I'll explain why we put our names on the back. So abstract artwork, you're looking at just the art. You don't want to have any distractions other than what's going on the paper or canvas. So if I write my name down in a corner, it's going to ruin what we call a composition. So you want to see all this really cool stuff going on, and writing your name down at the bottom is going to distract from all the cool stuff you made. So again, I'm just going through and painting right along the line of the colors, trying to avoid having white in between where the two colors are. So that's kind of going to force mixing where there are areas of wet paint. But you kind of don't want to purposefully mix them. So you just follow the line and let the paint sort of do its thing. And if you're using a ridiculous amount of water and there's no areas where it's dry, that's fine too. I don't want to. It doesn't really matter. You're just kind of doing your thing. So the goal here is to have the entire paper filled with color. So you don't want any white areas. So I'm just going through and I'm just basically dotting all these little white areas to make sure I take care of them. You can leave them if you want, just don't have a ton of white. All right, that was really sweet. Okay, so same process. I'm going to put this off to the side, and I'm only picking these up and moving them because of the camera. You should leave yours flat on your table until it's fully dry. So don't pick up your paper to show people. Let it completely dry, or the paint's going to just go all over the place. Oh, I forgot to switch. Not that color. I'm going to use this purpley colored. And I'm just following that boundary. Oh, I forgot the bleeds technique. Oh boy. So first, do the water puddle that doesn't touch the other water, doesn't touch the other color. There we go. All right. Now I'll go in and I'll take this color. There we go. And again, pretty much the most important part is that your colors are really rich, so vibrant. If your colors are looking kind of wishy-washy, go back in and get a lot more paint off of your palette or off of the pure color areas. And also try to get rid of any white paper that you can. We used to do this thing where we had visiting artists. So there's an artist that they do painting for a living or whatever, ceramics for a living. And they would share their techniques and have people work with them and kind of follow their lead. And what's really interesting about me teaching this is this was pretty much the fine art that I did. It's kind of weird, like having you all do art that I was doing. So again, I'm just going through, following the area where it's white paper, colored areas. You can see right here, I've got this kind of white area. I can massage this. This is all water though, so it's as it dries, the paint's going to move around. And if the paint's not moving around and you want it to, just throw a bunch of water on the paper. All right. And people at home, if this is looking really choppy, I'm recording this video right now, so you should be able to see it nice and smooth later or now. All right, I'm going to add some water to these areas. Sweet. I really like what's going on here. We've got like, I don't know, it almost looks like veins. Like the violet is working its way into this gray color. And like right here, this grayish green has completely started going into the area that I had painted violet and pushing the paint away. Yeah. And also right here, you see it almost kind of looks like clouds. So you've got really lighter areas that are kind of hazy. And you got this really rich dark area, which almost looks like a shadow. Yep, this is great. All right. And that might be to the point where we're out of time. So I'm going to work on the next step in the next video, so that way we don't have this video go super long. Okay.